Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen, who instructed me before the show starts, do not smile
You
when
never
you are
smile
fighting.
when you have your dukes up. That's
It's
how
hard
you
for
get
me
your
not to
teeth knocked
smile,
out.
but when I'm spending time with you, Cohen, and the Beatdown Brigaders on Election Day, though, it's hard for me not to smile with this community that brings me so much happiness and joy. And the results will start coming in later this evening. A reminder to everybody, around 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, will begin more live coverage on the Midas Touch Network right here about the election results. We've got a bunch of senators who are coming on, a bunch of Congress members coming on. Cohen, we'll hit you up as well as the night progresses too. I don't want to impose
100%.
upon you, Cohen, but as
Ben,
the night goes on,
your family never imposes, or actually family always impose, but that's acceptable.
So on election day, Donald Trump's been panicking all morning, and he's been posting all afternoon, and it's been post after post after post like this, Michael Cohen. This is what he said about Prop 50 in California. Trump writes this morning, the unconstitutional redistricting vote in California is a giant scam, and that the entire process, in particular the voting itself, is rigged. All mail-in ballots where the Republicans in the state are, quote, shut out, is under very serious legal and criminal review. Stay tuned, exclamation point, to which Governor Newsom responds, those are the ramblings of an old man that knows that he's about to lose. Then Donald Trump posted that he will refuse to follow a court order demanding that he provide SNAP benefits to millions of Americans, choosing instead to force people to starve. And this follows that great Gatsby-themed Roaring Twenties party he held at Mar-a-Lago, where the slogan is, a little partying never killed nobody. Here's what Donald Trump posted about SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits, which increased by billions and billions of dollars, many-fold, during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office, due to the fact that they were haphazardly handed to anyone for the asking, as opposed to just those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do and not before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. I just got to fact check it, of course. SNAP is not given to anybody who asks for it. There are certain requirements. There are 42 million Americans who are under the SNAP program who might starve to death if they're not given these SNAP benefits that they require to buy food. It's the Trump and Republican government shutdown because they're the ones who are refusing to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and they're the ones taking away Medicaid, and a court order Donald Trump to make these SNAP payments over the weekend. And what the Trump regime responded is it was only going to do half, to which the groups that filed the lawsuit on behalf of SNAP beneficiaries said, no, that's not what the order said. So they rushed back into court this morning, and Trump's response, Michael Cohen, is that he's not going to give any SNAP benefits at all to people.
Okay, so
Let me throw it to you, Cohen.
So here's the thing. As I wrote in my Substack of this morning, and I ask each and every one of you, please to read it because it's that good and it's that important. I call it Trump's shutdown starves his GOP faithful. See, this is the part that I don't really fully understand. Yeah, I get it. He doesn't want to give SNAP benefits, but SNAP benefits are not necessarily a democratic program, as so many of them are saying. It affects everybody. And as I write in my Substack, Trump's shutdown didn't just stop government, it stopped dinner. Not even his most loyal believers are learning that slogans don't feed families and loyalty doesn't buy bread. You see, here's the thing about Trump that I understand better than most. He always believed that the show would never end. The rallies, the chants, the sea of red hats. He saw it, right, as this permanent proof that his base would never turn on him. Well, all you need to do is go online and you start to see all of these posts, whether it's on X, Truth Social, on Blue Sky, on Substack, on Threads. It doesn't matter. They're everywhere saying, wait. I'm a Trump supporter. I am MAGA. I and my children and my family are starving. We don't have money for food, for rent, and for expenses. President Trump, what are you doing? Right? You're supposed to help make America great again. We're not feeling so great. So we're right now in this really weird place where Washington is blinded to the fact that MAGA are included in this government shutdown, and they themselves are now suffering from Trump's refusal and government's refusal to fund SNAP. This is not going to end well for this administration.
And then you have the fact that the MAGA Republicans in the House refuse to even show up for work. MAGA Mike Johnson continues to order the MAGA Republicans in the House, don't talk to Democrats, don't show up in Washington, D.C., let's not work. So in the past 102 days, the House has only worked 12 of those days in the past. Imagine, wouldn't that be nice for all of us? I mean, what do these Congress members get paid? Like $200,000 or 180 or something close, with all these incredible benefits that they get. And they've only worked 12 of 102 days because that's what MAGA Mike instructed.
Yeah.
And then they go to Mar-a-Lago and throw a great Gatsby themed Roaring 20s party with the slogan, "A little party never killed nobody." And then MAGA Mike is asked about it. And MAGA Mike's like, well, look, that's an obligatory party. Like he literally used the word obligatory. Like Trump is, we all know that Trump's obligated to throw that party. And then you see these images, Cohen, of the half naked women in the martini glasses. And then you have the half naked women like grinding up on people at the Mar-a-Lago location, at the tables.
But Ben, that doesn't matter because these guys that are there, these alpacacas, these old money guys, their peckers are limpless, lifeless, and useless, except to connect their bladder to their Depends diapers. So let me be very clear about that. But I do also want to say, that the floor is cracking. And brigaders, please understand, I'm telling this to you, and I have a great sense. I could smell the ground, and I'm telling you, the ground is cracking. And how do you know this? Because right now, there are actually bipartisan groups of lawmakers. Yeah, actual Republicans who released a statement of principles aimed at finding a way to extend Obamacare subsidies amidst this shutdown. You have Representative Don Bacon and Jeff Hurd, alongside of Democrat Tom Suozzi and Josh Gottheimer, calling for immediate collaboration between the two sides to reopen the government and address this crisis. This is what government's supposed to be: by the people, for the people, not against the people.
Well, look, because I think we all agree that there are aspects of the Affordable Care Act that need to be fixed. I mean, my view all along has been there should be universal health care. I believe health care is a human right. I believe it should be free. I believe that if you tax rich people fairly and stop giving them all of these tax cuts, or even tax them more, I think there's more than enough money to be able to fund health care for all. And I'm for that. I think it should be free. But the Affordable Care Act uses these subsidies to give health care to high-risk pools and people who wouldn't get health care before, who insurance companies previously discriminated on the basis of pre-existing conditions, and people would die because they didn't have health insurance. They were denied it, and then the subsidies come in to lower the prices. And so is a constant subsidization the right answer? For now, we need it. I'd like to move towards a universal healthcare system personally. If somebody has better ideas, I want to listen to it, but I want Americans to have affordable and good healthcare. That's what I want. I wasn't suggesting, though, about the Gatsby party, Cohen, that, I was focused on how the men there were responding to it. I was responding about the split screen, though, as Donald Trump is not even saying let the.
Boy, I guess I jumped in a little too quick on that one, huh?
My concern wasn't about the arousal of the men or out there,
or the
my
lack
concern,
thereof.
It was the split screen image of that taking place. Half naked women in martini glasses dancing in a Gatsby themed party. And by the way, we all know that Gatsby was not a celebration of the era. It was a critique of the conduct of people who were so lewd and lascivious and were getting all of this money and were so greedy. It was a critique on the pursuit of shameless wealth at the expense of the people. That's ultimately what Gatsby's message, was. And we all know at the end of the Roaring 20s what took place. It was the Great Depression as a result of these excesses. But at least Marie Antoinette said, let them eat cake. Donald Trump says, I'm going to starve them to death. And then you have those images there at Mar-a-Lago. So it's that split screen for me. You take a look at Trump's other post today as well. He says, think about this. He goes, Trump's speaking on behalf of Jewish people here, apparently. Any Jewish person that votes for Zoran Mamdani, a proven and self-professed Jew hater, is a stupid person, exclamation point, exclamation point. I mean, what a ridiculous and offensive thing for Donald Trump to say. In and of itself, my view, that Trump speaks on behalf of the Jewish community now. I mean, that's what his view is. Moving on to this next post by him, Trump goes, if affordability is you issue, vote Republican. Energy costs as an example, as end example. So just this, let's look at this sentence. If affordability is you issue, vote Republican. Energy costs as end example are plummeting, getting close to $2 a gallon gasoline. When energy goes down, everything else follows. And it has. Exclamation point. President DJT. And then finally he goes,
I just want to say before you jump into that, let me tell you, if he's not the one who posted that specific post, that person's going to get their ass handed to them. I can't tell you how many times he barks out things and tells people to quickly, like Dan Scavino and others, where everybody was just typing really quickly. You make a spelling mistake, you get your ass handed to you. Right? Can we go back to that one more time? That post, as short as it is, right, has more spelling and grammatical mistakes, getting close to $2 a gallon gasoline. When energy goes down, everything else follows.
$2 a gallon.
$2 a gallon gasoline. If affordability is you issue, I mean, it's actually got one, vote Republican. Energy costs and examples, that's two, are plummeting, getting close to $2 a gallon. That's three there. When energy goes down, everything else follows. Follows what? I mean, and it has. Again, this I don't understand, but I promise you, Ben, as I know Trump better than anybody, the person who actually put that post out, and I'm telling you, that one wasn't done by him, right? Because I'm looking at the timing. That person's in big trouble.
Yeah, but and more than the grammatical issues, though, Cohen, when Trump keeps on saying, though, that things are more affordable, your life is better, things are great right now. What the latest polling out there shows 65% of Americans say that things right now are worse under Donald Trump than they were under former President Biden. Now, the number should be 100% because quite literally they are worse. I mean, objectively, if you look at the data, I mean, we'll talk about jobless claims, right? 950,000 jobs lost in just the first 3 quarters of this year. That's more than any time since COVID, right around when Trump was in office. And then before that, the Great Recession. And that data is only through September. And we saw those massive layoffs that have taken place in October, which is not counted. So in this past year, we're probably going to have close to 2 million jobs that were lost. And a lot of them in construction, in manufacturing, in farming, particularly hitting Trump's
in
base.
construction, you have it in in technology. By the way, you
Other
also
than other than at the highest level of AI and these data centers, which are the cause of so much terminations and layoffs, as well as businesses. This was the cover of the Wall Street Journal, Cohen. Businesses are getting comfortable with layoffs, and they're using the expansion of these data centers and AI to say, we don't need employees anymore. So to your point, we've seen all these workers in tech and construction and manufacturing. They've lost their jobs. And the only thing propping up the economy now at all in the stock market is this AI bubble at the top. That's it. Everything else is down significantly. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're not interrupting. I mean, it's an exact point. Right now, Americans are losing their jobs faster than at any point, at least in the last, 50, 60 years for certain. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and we were talking about, do you remember that there used to be a job where you were a toll booth operator, where you actually sat in the toll booth 8 hours a day? You were part of a union, so you got union benefits, meaning health care. You also got a pension. Well, as we all know, Easy Pass and cameras affiliated with Easy Pass put an end to that job. I mean, that was hundreds of thousands of employees. The point that I'm trying to make is technology is not always good for that sort of level employee, right? Sure, AI will help every single person that's out there to do something faster, quicker, and most probably even better. But here's the problem. What happens to all the people that used to fill that role? Well, where do they now find themselves in this job market? And Ben, who's actually doing worse than ever before in terms of securing jobs and opportunities right now in this market?
Oh.
Gen Z. Had that long conversation on my Mea Culpa podcast with Adam Mockler. His friends, many of whom, of course, same age as he, are telling they can't find jobs. They can't find jobs in the fields that they want to, that they want to start out in, that they went to school for, and they're very nervous. It's actually one of the reasons why Zohan Mamdani is as popular as he is, because he's sort of trying to buck the system. He's bucking the system with a lot of lies, but he's still bucking the system. And he's trying to give them some sense of hope, where everybody else is sort of like almost like doom and gloom.
I'm just going to put it out there. I'm a big Zoran Mamdani fan, and I don't want to turn this episode into a debate on Zoran.
No, I'm not. I don't want to turn it into a debate either.
No, I hear you. But I think that it will be, to your point though, and I think where we can all agree on the undisputed facts though, is that Zoran's been out there and he's speaking to affordability, and he's saying the issue that matters the most to young people. And I think, I think Zoran will admit this readily, which is, and it's going to be the same thing where Trump has utterly failed right now, right? Trump made all of these promises. Day one this, day one that. I promise you, I guarantee you. And Trump was an utter liar. I mean, all those promises were broken. So I think, though, as you start to look at what's going to happen if Mamdani wins, and the polls project that he's going to be, but we will see. He knows, as all politicians do, whether you're Mamdani, whether you're Spanberger, whether you are Mikey Sherrill, whoever, you're now going to have to deliver for the people on the promises made, and they're going to be and you're going to be.
And New Yorkers will hold him to whatever promises that he made, especially the Gen Zers. By the way, we have to respect the outcome of elections. That's what we do. That's what makes America unique. We respect the outcome of our elections. Now, again, once they ultimately come into office, this is where you hold them to account. And, like every other politician, as Ben just said, he too will ultimately be held to account, hopefully as a New Yorker, as a lifelong New Yorker, whether I like him or I don't, if he ultimately wins, and it is expected he's going to win by double-digit margin over who? Failed Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo? Really? That's the best opposition that you have there, right? I mean, so it is expected that he wins. I want him to succeed, as I want even our president to succeed. But I want him to succeed in a manner that's consistent with, with America.
Well, and look, we already know that Donald Trump's attempt at, look, no, wouldn't it have been great if Donald Trump really brought in $22 trillion and it wasn't just one big massive lie and Ponzi scheme?
I think
like objectively, what would I say to that? I mean, I would have to acknowledge that's a good thing. The same way I acknowledged that in theory, if Trump was able to secure a peace deal in Gaza, that would be a good thing. But my coverage focused on the facts and not the hype, whereas corporate media was historic peace deal. I said, this is a ceasefire at best. We're still seeing dozens and dozens of Palestinians killed. So I'm not sure what ceasefire exists where you see so many people killed. Hamas didn't disarm and have gained control, which they always said they were going to do anyway, of Gaza. You have Netanyahu and Smotrich saying they plan to develop in the West Bank and do not agree with the two-state solution. Trump didn't provide any answer on the question of a free Palestine and a two-state solution. Hamas and Israel didn't sign the agreement. I said it was a good thing that hostages got returned, the same way I said when Biden got 83% of hostages returned, that's a good thing. But for me, I would have loved to see actual real peace in the Middle East. I would actually like to see peace in Ukraine in 24 hours. I would like to see things more affordable. Things were expensive under Biden. I believe it was because Donald Trump just destroyed the economy his first term. There was $8 trillion of debt. Supply chains were shut down as a result of COVID. People seem to have that Men in Black magic wand amnesia, where it's just like Biden was in office. And it wasn't like Biden inherited the biggest crisis ever, which was Donald Trump's mishandling of COVID, where Trump said like a miracle, it's going to go away. And he said, we're going to get rid of this in a few days and it's never going to happen. So Biden had to deal with the real stuff. And that was never really communicated, I think, the way it had to be. But if you told me that there was no inflation, $22 trillion here, peace in the Middle East, 8 wars that were actually settled, if that was real, I would say, great job. I would say that's really good. But Trump has lied about all this.
You know what this is? You know what this is, Ben? This is the political beatdown Sharpie neuralizer, right? So what I do is I take this cap off and I move with this power of my Sharpie neuralizer. I move the hurricane away from U.S. borders back into the ocean. And you know what happens? It works. It works. Right. Until, of course, it's your house that goes flying into the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean. Sure, it works. That's the problem. And then you have them turn around and tell you, no, we moved the hurricane. I used it with my Sharpie neuralizer.
Look, we've got a lot of election coverage today here on the Midas Touch Network. When we come back, I want to show you what MAGA Mike was saying this morning. We'll show you a little bit of Caroline Leavitt, but I got to talk some legal news with you, Michael Cohen, because Lindsay Halligan, Trump's former personal lawyer, kind of like, you were former, you may have some insight here. She didn't heed your warning. And in fact, she went just right into it, basically. And she's like, I'm going to be the federal prosecutor of the Eastern District of Virginia, even though everybody in this office has said that there's really no justification for prosecuting Comey. She goes, Donald Trump wants me to do it. I'm going to do it. She had no experience doing trials, yet alone federal criminal trials, never been a prosecutor. She's in a grand jury room all by herself, nobody else there. I've been a lawyer for a long time. I've done lots of trials. I can't even imagine what I would do going into a grand jury room. And then not just any case, a case where you're seeking an indictment of a former FBI director. And then in New York Attorney General Letitia James with nobody in there. So a federal judge who's determining whether or not Halligan was lawfully or unlawfully appointed, her name is Judge Curry, she made an order, turn over the grand jury transcripts. I want to read it. And so Halligan turns over a small portion of the grand jury transcript that doesn't include at all what Halligan said at the beginning or at the end, or as she was seeking the indictment. And the judge is like, that's not what I asked for.
Yeah.
I want to see what you told the grand jury.
Yeah, well, we do have a lot. We do have a lot to talk about.
All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. Of course, a two-finger salute is coming. And everybody, subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's Substack. He's a great writer. We feature lots of his pieces on the Midas Touch Substack as well. So check that out. Also, subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast, wherever audio podcasts are available. First quick and last quick break of the show. Only one break. We'll be right back with much more. Let's take our quick break.
You know, losing someone really close makes you think about the future. I've seen friends and family struggle when the unexpected hits. And the last thing that you want is for your loved ones to worry about bills, the mortgage, or tuition on top of the grief. And that's why I looked into life insurance and why I went through Ethos. Getting coverage through Ethos was shockingly easy. It's 100% online, no medical exam required. You just answer a few health questions. I mean, I literally got an instant rate in as little as 10 minutes, the same day coverage without even leaving my house. I mean, that's faster than waiting for a politician to get anything done. Life insurance isn't just about death. It's about making sure that your family can keep their home, send the kids to college, maintain their lifestyle if something happens to you. And with Ethos, it's actually affordable. I mean, there are some policies as low as $2 a day, literally billed monthly with up to $3 million coverage. I mean, they're disrupting the old confusing way of doing life insurance. And you know what? It shows. Over 3 million families have trusted Ethos, and they're rated 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot. So do this for your family and do it now. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. And get your free quote at ethos.com/beatdown. That's ethos.com/beatdown. It's fast, simple, reliable, and honestly, a little peace of mind goes a long way, even in my world. I got to tell you about my neighbor's cat. You know, the one I always talk about, Marlo. I mean, this guy is a total character. Last week, I watched him sniff around my kitchen like an inspector, judging everything. I mean, I swear, if he could talk, he'd be reviewing restaurants on Yelp. And you know what? I realized something. Marlo deserves the best. And that's where Smalls comes in. Even though I don't feed him, I know he'd go crazy for it. Because Smalls is real protein-packed, preservative-free food that cats actually love. I mean, imagine Marlo doing a taste test. 2 bowls side by side. One with mystery kibble, one with Smalls. Guaranteed, he wouldn't even glance at the kibble. Go straight for Smalls, nose twitching, tail flicking, the full Marlo seal of approval. So know this, that Smalls started in 2017. 2 people cooking in small batches for friends' cats, and now they've served millions of meals. Fresh, healthy recipes that give cats shinier fur, more energy, fewer hairballs, and a litter box that doesn't make you question life choices. And if your cat doesn't love it, Smalls will refund you. No risk, no questions. So here's the deal. For a limited time, because you're a Political Beatdown listener, you're going to get 60% off your first order plus free shipping. So go right now to smalls.com/beat. That's Smalls, SMALLS.com/beat for 60% off plus free shipping. Treat your cat, or just imagine Marlo enjoying every bite. It's worth it.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. No smile when you're fighting is what Cohen said at the outset. Thank you to our sponsors. They help support the show. Jordy negotiates great discount codes with them as well, and you can find the links to them in the description below on this YouTube channel. All right, let's talk about Caroline Leavitt's press conference earlier today. She was asked about Donald Trump's comments that the California election for Prop 50 where Prop 50 is now expected to win big yes over the nose, which is the mid-decade redistricting effort to stop the rigging that Donald Trump was doing in the elections. And it basically totally counters what happened in Texas. I mean, it was brilliant by California Governor Gavin Newsom, as he says, exercising moral authority, formal authority, bringing it to the voters so that the voters can make the decision if they want to redistrict in California, not just like the legislature doing it, the people power. And it was not a foregone conclusion that yes was going to be this popular. Remember, at first, lots of people were saying, oh, this is never going to pass in California. And then all the right-wing big money was flooding in California. But, you know, Newsom recognized, I think, a digital-first strategy, and he was aggressive as can be. And, you know, I think he showed incredible leadership, just my own opinion.
You know, it's not just Gavin Newsom. It's also, you know, others like Eric Swalwell, who's out there pushing for, you know, Prop 50 to be affirmed by the people. But I'm so with you. It's a point that's not discussed enough anywhere, not in media, not in cable news, not in print. They brought it to the people, unlike in Texas, where it was simply the governor acquiescing to the White House's desire. There's a very big difference when you include the people. Somewhere along the line, they keep forgetting it's about we, the people, those that put them in the position to make these decisions. They don't believe that the people have any rights into being a part of this process. That's not what Gavin Newsom, that's not what folks like Eric Swalwell and others are saying. They're saying it is your decision. We will respect your decision, but this is what we think needs to be done. And you know what? We leave it to you to decide. Great point, Ben.
Caroline Levitt, here's what she said when she said, a reporter said, so what evidence do you have that California is rigging Prop 50? Like, why is Trump saying that? Here's what she said. Here, play this clip.
Point. Sure.
Caroline, the president posted on Truth Social that the voting underway in California is, quote, rigged. What evidence does he have of that, and what does it mean that mail-in ballots in that state are under legal and criminal review? By whom and why? And also, in this vein, does the White House still plan to issue an executive order banning mail-in voting, and what legal authority do you have to do that?
The White House is working on an executive order to strengthen our elections in this country and to ensure that there cannot be blatant fraud, as we've seen in California with their universal mail-in voting system. It's absolutely true that there's fraud in California's elections. It's just a fact. It is just a fact. They have a universal mail-in voting system, which we know is ripe for fraud. And if you want to deny that, I'm happy to provide you all of the evidence for it. I'd be glad to send that to you after this briefing.
Rigged.
Fraudulent ballots that are being mailed in the names of other people and the names of illegal aliens who shouldn't be voting in American elections. There's countless examples, and we'd be happy to provide them. As for executive action the White House is taking, yes, we are looking into that. And like any executive order, of course, any executive order the president signs is within his full executive authority and within the confines of the law. Steve.
I actually thought the reporter did a good job there, though, and she actually pressed, what? No. What did he mean by rigged? And then she got Caroline Levitt to say, like, the ballots were tampered with and illegal immigrants, like, just like
fact,
little.
But it's a fact. It's an absolute fact. And you know what? The beauty thing, you know how like Trump always says, you know, this will happen in 2 weeks. It's around 2 weeks' time. If you ever notice Caroline Levitt's sort of go-to line, what we'll do is afterwards, I'll provide you with all of that information in order to validate my invalid statement. All right. I promise you, Ben, we should right now send in a request to Caroline Levitt, and we should ask her for that information. We would like to review it ourselves. And I promise you, you will not get you will get zero information back, you know, from them. They'll tell you need to go through the FOIA office, and there you may as well bang your head against a concrete wall, because that they never respond.
Next, Caroline Levitt was asked about why Donald Trump get this MRI. Here, play this clip.
Why did President Trump get an MRI during his recent visit to Wall Street?
Look, as President Trump said, he would inquire with the physicians. I'll check back on that. But as the physical itself stated, Kristen, and as you all know, because you are all witness to it every single day, the president is in optimal physical health. This was a follow-up appointment, and we provided a detailed readout of that physical. I'm happy to give it to you again, and I can inquire further.
With all due respect, an MRI is a very specific procedure. It's done on a part of the body looking for something specific, so it's not generally part of any kind of routine checkup. And in addition, President Trump has said that he wants to be transparent. He told us to ask the doctors, which we have and have not heard back. Why don't we have more information on this?
As I said, I'll check back for you.
Again, like you said. And then Trump said, ask the doctors. So we asked the doctors. The doctors said, we're not telling you. So now we're
not allowed to tell you based upon HIPAA. And so continue.
So then they go and ask Caroline Levitt and say, so what was it? Then she goes, as Donald Trump said, well, yes, Trump did say for us to go and ask the doctor. That's what he said. So we asked the doctor and we're not getting the information. So now we're asking you. And by the way, though, do you notice, Cohen, there's a difference in that press room right now, I feel. And, you and I have covered this.
Say the same thing.
You and I cover this a lot, but they're pushing back in a little bit of a different way now.
The reporters are getting definitively more aggressive with Machine Gun Lips Levitt. All right. They are not just allowing her to point away after she answers, or I should say deflects from a question. They are pushing back and they are getting in that next follow-up question, because at some point in time, they're getting pushback from the readers, from their subscribers, all saying, what the hell are we doing reading your paper when all it is a regurgitation of the lies that we hear every single day at these briefing room sessions? It is pure and utter nonsense to believe. Look, the man's still 79 years old, all right? Few people, maybe like, he's not Jack LaLanne, if you all remember who Jack LaLanne was at 79, where he's doing 30, pull-ups simply because he's been doing it since he was 4 years old. That's just not Donald Trump. So is he in optimal health? No. Is he breathing? Yes. Is he healthy enough to continue with the job? I'm certain that he is. But Kristen Holmes from CNN asked the right question. An MRI, magnetic resonant imaging, is a very specific tool that is used within which to explore, a specific body part. There is no such thing as an MRI of the body. You get it done of whatever the specific body part that needs to be reviewed and examined. So what is that? Well, of course, easy for Trump to say, go speak to the doctor. He knows HIPAA does not allow that information to be released. So she asks, well, Miss Press Secretary, Machine Gun Lips, can you please tell us at least what body part was the scan of? Well, we'll let you know. I'll get back to you. All right. Just, forget about it for right now. Just contact me and I'll send you the information. Not a chance. What they don't want to tell you, they will not tell you. And that's just about everything.
All right. I can show MAGA Mike clips. He looks like an idiot.
Do it.
All right, I'll show. then I want to talk.
That makes MAGA Mike look stupider than he does. Is it me? Does he look like a puppet? Right? His cheeks are all. It's like he's wearing like kabuki type of makeup, right, for a geisha girl, right, where his face is like pale white. He's got like the little rings around him, like if he's like a 1940s type of a puppet.
He does have a little Pinocchio kind of face looking, to him with the geisha makeup. Here's MAGA Mike right here. And he's asked about, are you concerned that Americans see Trump doing these great Gatsby parties on the one hand, while Americans are suffering on the other? This is where MAGA Mike talks about it was an obligatory party. We all know Trump had to fight for his rights to party. Here, play this clip.
So, yeah.
You talk about the split screen between what the Democrats are doing and what the Republicans are doing. What about the split screen about the fact that the Trump administration is administering only part of the SNAP program while President Trump is having a gathering party at Mar-a-Lago?
I reject the premise of the question. Let me talk about SNAP. Okay. By the way, the president had an annual Halloween theme party every year at Mar-a-Lago. That's what he went back to as obligatory tradition. And I just discount what you're trying to do there. The SNAP benefit is a very important question. The White House has bent over backwards, as we've recounted here every morning, to make sure that Americans' pain is mitigated as much as possible, reduced as much as possible. So we got the troops paid. They made creative solutions for that. The WIC funding for women, infants, and children. And SNAP came to a legal crossroads because the legal analysis said that you could not use the contingency fund if the underlying fund was not flowing. I've explained that into detail here multiple times. Two courts disagreed. So what did the president do? In good faith.
Okay, let me turn around and say something. What he's doing is he's taking a truth and he's lying on top of that truth. Yes, every year, since probably its inception, Mar-a-Lago has a Halloween party. Absolutely they do. But is it required that the president actually be there? Could that Halloween party not go on with maybe Don Jr., who lives in Palm Beach, or Eric, or maybe Ivanka and Jared would come out of Miami Beach and drive up to Mar-a-Lago for a night in order to entertain people? What about just sending Barron? I mean, barely, I don't even hear he goes to school anymore. So what about Barron, or, even Tiffany, right? The lost child. Let somebody else come up there and actually entertain Mar-a-Lago guests or members for the evening. Do you know, Ben, that it costs the taxpayers over about $5 million for Donald Trump to participate, to be there at Mar-a-Lago for this Halloween event, while, again, 42 million Americans, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, women, children, elderly, veterans, everyone in between, are now being denied a kitchen with food. I mean, you want to talk about being blind to reality? Who are the idiots that are around him that are saying to him, you know what, Mr. President, I think it's a great idea. And you know what's else would be a great idea? Let's get some like really young, attractive women. Let's stick them in gigantic plastic martini glasses, fill it up with water, and let's really go all out. While the American people are suffering, let's just really go all out and have fun. Because you know what? We're entitled to some fun. It's been a rough 10 months.
Yeah, and there are ways to do it. You're now the president of the United States again, unfortunately, but you are. And you can have your Halloween party if you want it, or you can do an understated version, or you can do what the president should do during a shutdown, which is being on the food bank lines and being with the people and showing that you care about the troops.
Or maybe just call meetings between Republicans and Democrats. Maybe try to force some sort of a reconciliation between the two sides of the aisle to put an end to this government shutdown. Maybe. No,
absolutely. Now, I just want to read for you what the judge's order was with respect to Lindsay Halligan, because I don't want there to be any misstatements or whatever. I mean, let's just go to what the actual order was with Halligan. That's a different one there, Remy. That one right there is the one that the government says it's not going to be providing documents with respect to New York Attorney General Letitia James. But let me pull up this Judge Curry one right here and find it for us. What did Judge Curry say? Judge Curry ordered the DOJ to submit a more complete transcript of the Comey grand jury proceedings, noting that the transcripts she was provided of the lone witness does not include any of the remarks from Lindsay Halligan. Just want you to think about that. Doesn't include the remarks from Lindsay Halligan or the presentation. So here's what the order says. Defendant James P. Comey has filed a motion to dismiss alleging the indictment resulted from a violation of the Appointments Clause, which authorizes the appointment of an interim United States attorney. On October 28, 2025, the undersigned, meaning the judge, Judge Curry, entered an order directing the government to submit for in-camera review, that just means for the judge to review only, all documents relating to the indictment signer's participation in the grand jury proceedings, along with the complete grand jury transcripts. The indictment signer is Lindsay Halligan. On Friday, October 31st, 2025, the court received a package containing inter alia just means among other things, a transcript of grand jury proceedings on September 25th, 2025. This court has reviewed the transcript and finds that it fails to include remarks made by the indictment signer, both before and after the testimony of the sole witness, which remarks were referenced by the indictment signer during the witness's testimony. In addition, the package contains no records or transcripts regarding the presentation of the 3-count indictment referenced in the transcript of the return of grand jury indictment proceedings before the magistrate judge. Accordingly, the government is directed to submit no later than Wednesday, November 5th, 2025 at 5 p.m. for in-camera review, a complete transcript and/or recording of all statements made by the indictment signer to the grand jury on September 25th, 2025, to include statements made prior to and after the testimony of the witness and during the presentation of the 3-count and subsequent 2-count indictments. So in other words, what Lindsay Halligan did was just submit the testimony of a witness. There was probably some FBI witness who wasn't even involved in the Comey investigation. In these grand juries, you can have an FBI agent testify to hearsay. And so you have someone basically show up. What was this guy told or gal told who testified before the grand jury? So all that was given was what this witness said, this FBI agent. But what was not provided is what did Lindsay Halligan tell the grand jury that their responsibility was? Because the prosecutor is supposed to instruct them what the process is about, what their role is. What did she say after that witness testified? And then when she was speaking to the grand jury about the underlying indictment,
right,
what was she saying to them that these counts are when she instructs them on the law? That was never submitted. And how do you not submit it? It's the easiest request from the judge, right, Cohen? Just turn over the grand jury. You turn over the full thing.
Right. And it's not that they're turning it over to the press or to a FOIA. They're turning it over to the judge.
The judge.
Which is why they're saying in camera, meaning for the judge's eyes only.
And I want people to know this too. It may sound odd. You'd be like, well, doesn't the judge know about this already? No, because grand jury proceedings take place outside of the presence of the judge and outside of the presence of the person and their lawyers who you're seeking the indictment against.
Right.
So the defendant or the potential defendant isn't there. So what this system relies on is a prosecutor exercising their ethics and good faith and giving accurate information to the grand jury. And the alarm here is none of the prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia who saw this case said that there's a case. One of the things that we also know is that the witnesses who are supposed to support the prosecution's version of events, one of them, McCabe, has been on the Midas Touch Network before, and he goes, I did it on my own. I leaked it. I had authority, not from Comey. I leaked it on my own. The other guy is a lawyer to Comey, was one of like Comey's lawyers, Richmond or whatever the guy's name is. And he's friends with Comey, and he hadn't said that Comey gave him the info. So whatever we think about Comey, the two potential witnesses are Comey's buddies. So what would and we know what they said in the Inspector General's report. Anyway, Cohen, this is showing you though, when you put in someone like Halligan, I mean, like, could you imagine, Cohen, even like you, when you were Trump's personal attorney, would you be like, I know enough? Wouldn't you be like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be the federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia if I don't have prosecutorial experience?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who have taken on positions in this administration that have no business being there. I mean, I know many of them personally, and not even via Trump. I know them personally outside of the Trump world. Many of them have absolutely zero experience in the area that they are now in charge of. And you know what? I know it's great to have that title, and now you're going to have that title for the rest of your life, but you're not doing right by the country. You're not doing right by the citizens. You can't be the secretary of whatever, like a Pete Hegseth, the Department of War, when you have no capability. You're placing America in harm's way.
Cohen, two fingers salute. Who are you going to give it to?
You know, Ben, it's a really tough one today because so many people deserve it that once again, I'd like to confer with you, Ben, on, you know, maybe let's give like three potentials.
We'll
Obviously,
go
of
two.
course.
Obviously, Trump should get it every episode,
Right,
so we
but
don't.
we
give
can't
it
do
then.
that.
So let me give you four options, and one that we haven't discussed. One, Sean Duffy, Transportation Secretary, who says that he may be
100%.
shutting down the airports next week. Didn't talk about him, but wild card. Caroline Levitt, who we give it to a lot. She lies in the press conference. She talks about the MRI, but doesn't answer the question. Kind of too easy. MAGA Mike, we give it to all of the time. Lindsey Halligan right there at the end. So those are the four that I would put in contention.
Yeah, then we're going to have to give it to Lindsey Halligan. I'm with you, by the way. You know, I understand wanting, as Alina Habba wanted to be, you know, the Attorney General for New Jersey. I get it. You know, you probably should have some legitimate prosecutorial experience. That's not a world that I was ever involved with. If I was offered it, I would say, Mr. President, thank you for that honor. There's actually other places that I would be better useful to you on. This is not one of them. Yeah, I get it. She's a lawyer. Many people are lawyers, but that doesn't mean that you understand the federal process. I don't know if you are actually admitted, Ben, into the federal courts. I actually never went for it. I didn't need it, right? And so, you know, so for me to then accept a role which is outside of the scope of my knowledge, of my abilities, I think you're making not just a fool of yourself, but you're making a fool of the president who you are allegedly trying to protect. And so to Lindsey, for just accepting the role and for not turning around and standing up and just saying, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm going to be hurting the Eastern District of Virginia. Maybe I'm going to be hurting the process. Maybe I'm going to be hurting the way people look at America and trust the people there in D.C. to do the right thing. Maybe your actions have now caused everybody to think even less of D.C. than we already have. And for that, you got to get the two-finger salute.
Right. And here's the deal, because if Comey engaged in misconduct, it's not like I'm a Comey cheerleader. You know, I'm not like Comey's the greatest guy ever just because and what. No, I mean, like the reality is that if there was misconduct, criminal conduct that can be proven, you know, do it the right way. To me, it's not about liking or don't liking a guy. Or New York Attorney General Letitia James, someone who I'm very supportive of. I like her, unlike Comey, who I think that he did a lot of screwed up things, when it came to the 2016. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But I view these people differently. But it is what it is. I think whatever. I would like just because I like New York Attorney General just doesn't change my analysis of Comey versus James. At the end of the day, if crimes were committed, then and these are prosecuted crimes, go for it. But they're not. And there's a reason why prosecutor after prosecutor, in my view, rejected these. Now, the full force of the government has the ability to prosecute and get people convicted on a lot of things. We've seen that. But the issue is, though, even for their own self-interest, to put middle school basketball player who struggles to make JV on an NBA court against LeBron James just makes the whole institution look stupid. And that's what Lindsey Halligan in a federal court against James Comey's lawyers looks like. So regardless of where you stand on the political aisle about this person or that person, it makes the justice system look absolutely stupid. And it erodes all of the trust. And I'm curious to see what the hell, I said this from day one. I said, what did Halligan tell that grand jury? I want to hear her words. Was the first thing I said.
Unfortunately, you never get to see grand jury notes. That's the whole problem.
You never do until
it's a secret. It is a secret proceeding
until that witness testifies at the federal trial, and then you're able to cross-examine that witness with the grand jury material once they are sworn to testify in the jury box in an actual trial. Then we would get to see it. But until then, we wouldn't. That's why the judge requested it in camera. All right, everybody. Great episode. Election coverage all day here on the Midas Touch Network. We have the Legal AF Michael Popak rundown coming up. Then we have the Midas Touch election coverage. I know I already got a bunch of senators, governors. People are going to be lined up for that coverage. Michael Cohen will join at some point. I was going to do a sumo wrestling joke because I learned that Michael Cohen likes to watch sumo wrestling. Tonight, all eyes on New Jersey, New York, Virginia, California, and let's not sleep on a lot of other legislative races statewide across the country that we'll be reporting about here, as always, on the Midas Touch Network. Thanks so much for watching.
Just so you know, Ben, I actually won. I placed a bet on my favorite sumo wrestler who actually won there. So, yeah, it's a good day for me.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast, wherever you get your audio podcast. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's Substack. Subscribe to our Substack. Subscribe to our YouTube channel here at the Midas Touch Network. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching. Live coverage, election coverage this evening. We've got Popak, then it goes right into live coverage of election night. Midas Touch Network, your number one destination for truth, facts, justice. What's up, Midas Mighty? Thanks, Beatdown Brigaders. We'll see you soon.
Boom.